Good day and greetings to you wherever you are. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the third day of the inaugural Travel Retail Sustainability Week event and the first session of the day dealing with the plastic pollution problem, the NGO perspective. I'm Michael Barrett, Head of Events and Corporate Social Responsibility at TR Business, and I'm delighted to host this session once again with my colleague Andrew Pentel, Senior Editor at TR Business. I want to start by thanking all the session sponsors, Arianta International, Beam Suntory, Brown Forman, Coty, and Mondelez International. This morning's session takes a slightly different approach. There are no brands, retailers, airports, consultants, or packaging suppliers in this session. We wanted to adopt a different approach with this session and highlight some of the amazing organizations, 2 NGOs in particular, and 1 social enterprise, and their work on fighting the plastic pollution scourge. What better place than in an event dedicated to sustainability, watched by hundreds of industry executives, passionate about helping to clean up the environment and reduce the industry's single-use plastic footprint, to showcase and put the spotlight on some of the organizations working hard, both through physical cleanups as well as education and advocacy, to solve the global scourge of plastic pollution. We want to encourage all of you tuning in not only to listen to our 4 panelists, but also to actively support their work in any way you can. Andy will introduce the session in more detail and ask our panelists to introduce themselves in a few moments. Concerning the session so far, if you've missed any or want to watch them again, you can of course view all of those sessions on demand just by clicking on the session name each day here on the event platform. After Monday's inspiring keynote session with David Katz, we had a sustainable beauty session with a dynamic panel of beauty specialists on Monday afternoon. We had a highly engaging session with industry leaders from retailers and brands Tuesday morning, followed by a session yesterday afternoon dedicated specifically to alternatives to single-use plastics, which was certainly enlightening. And of course, the first 2 sustainability pitch sessions revealing the first few travel retail sustainability trailblazers and heroes. A brief note about the sustainability pitch and a little breaking news here. We've received a huge amount of positive feedback on this program, not least of all from the fantastic lineup of judges, all senior executives with airports and retailers, but also ETRC, Mindset, and our own keynote speaker, David Katz. Now the flame has been lit, we aim to keep the torch burning and continue celebrating sustainable initiatives. The Sustainable Pitch program will remain open to any company wishing to submit a proposal to our resident panel of judges. A number of judges have already expressed an interest in continuing to work with us on this journey, so we're delighted to launch this ongoing initiative already with such strong endorsements. We'll be announcing more details on how the Sustainability Pitch will operate on trbusiness.com very soon, so stay tuned. Another piece of breaking news just come in. The final session of the week will now be a closing keynote session featuring our good friend Anson Bailey, Head of Consumer Insights at Asia Pacific and Technology at KPMG. Many of you will know Anson, a fantastic speaker, very engaging, and he'll be talking about sustainable finance and the consumer perspective on sustainability in a session called Living in a More Sustainable World. That session will be at 11:30 a.m. UK time on Friday, the 23rd of April, in a couple of days' time. So do register for that session and tune in to listen to Anson's very engaging presentation. And that session now is updated on the event platform. I'm just changing my slides here. So as you've seen in each session so far, we pay tribute not only to the session sponsors, but to all the amazing partners who've supported this event and made it possible for us to bring these webinars and networking opportunities to you at no cost. TR Business took the decision to make access free of charge to all of you so we can facilitate the knowledge sharing on these vital topics and ensure you meet with the companies investing in sustainable solutions and continue the conversation on sustainability with both current and potential partners. This is TR Business's commitment to driving the industry's sustainability agenda, so our thanks to all of the companies who have made this event possible. And these are Altia, Arianta International, Beam Suntory, Brown Forman, Coty, Dufree, Fras, Gala, Join the Pipe, Chris Shop, Lego, L'Occitane en Provence, L'Oréal Travel Retail, Molton Brown, Mondelez International, Moroccan Oil, Nestle, Pure Essential, Ritter Sport, and Silent Pool Gin. Thanks to all of you for your support. Just a few housekeeping notes before I hand over to Andrew. I'm sure you're quite familiar with the event platform by now, but please do visit our event partners' sustainability networking hubs, where you can discover the various sustainable investments from a number of airports, retailers, brands, social enterprises, and NGOs. You can message them or schedule appointments with them, see their videos, and download their sustainability reports and news. You can also schedule appointments with each other through the attendees tab in the top menu or via the schedule appointment button on the main My Event page. Finally, if you have any questions about any aspect of the event, please get in touch with us via our own virtual help desk hub, where our colleague Helen Chater will be able to answer any queries. Just click on the Join Virtual Meeting button anytime between 9 AM and 5 PM UK time, and you can video or audio chat with her there. You can also leave us a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. We've had lots of great questions during all the sessions so far, so please do use this opportunity to question our panelists about their sustainability achievements and plans. Ask them how you can get involved with the NGOs as well, presenting this morning. They're here to answer your questions too. The Q&A button is on the right-hand side of your screen. So without any further ado, I'll now hand over to Andrew, who will introduce this session and our panelists. Over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Michael, for the introduction. It's a pleasure to co-moderate this session, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all our viewers from around the world. Before we begin, I would also like to thank our session sponsors, Brown Forman, Coty, Mondelez, Beam Suntory, and Arianta International, and give a big shout out to all our partners, without whom this groundbreaking event would not be possible. The world is producing plastic pollution in alarming amounts. This is why plastic pollution has become one of the most pressing environmental issues. As highlighted in the keynote session with Plastic Bank CEO David Katz on day one of Travel Retail Sustainability Week, plastic pollution is most evident in areas of poverty where rubbish collection systems are often inefficient or non-existent. Come to think of it though, there are also issues with plastic pollution in the developed world, especially in countries with low recycling rates. According to a statistic seen on the National Geographic website, around 8 million tonnes of plastic waste escapes into the oceans from coastal nations every year. Millions of animals are also killed by plastics every year, from birds to fish to other marine organisms. Many solutions to plastic pollution have been discussed over the past couple of days during Travel Retail Sustainability Week, including improved waste management systems and recycling, sustainable packaging, and single-use plastic alternatives. Putting my travel, retail, and duty-free hat on, industry stakeholders have been doing everything possible to try and make a difference and do their bit to avoid plastic pollution. That said, there's still plenty of work to be done. One initiative which springs to mind was a Miles Wrigley International Travel Retail Beach Cleanup exercise at a Dutch beach in 2019. As part of the Miles volunteering programme, team members spent 2 hours sourcing the shoreline to collect and remove plastic waste. Elsewhere, Dubai Airports has banned single-use plastics at Dubai and Al Maktoum international airports. And earlier this month, San Francisco International Airport expanded its plastic-free policy to prohibit the sale of beverages in plastic bottles. This year, London City Airport is also due to roll out 25,000 fully compostable security bags following a sustainable security bag challenge. The challenge culminated in Tipper Corp Limited, an Israeli company manufacturing biodegradable plastic packaging, being awarded £10,000 for developing a fully compostable security bag. During this session entitled Dealing with the Plastic Pollution Problem, the NGO perspective, we will hear from Foundation for Environmental Education on its 5 environmental educational programs, its educational principles, and strategy to achieve tangible change by 2030. We will also learn about Plastic Odyssey's exploration mission across 3 continents, targeting areas most affected by plastic pollution. In addition, Surfrider Europe will tell us what it is doing to preserve the world's oceans, waves, and beaches. The non-profit environmental organisation will highlight possible solutions to ocean pollution and explain how people can do their bit by changing their habits. I would now like to ask each speaker to give a short introduction, and perhaps we can begin with Florence at Surfrider.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be there, to have that opportunity to speak about that major issue, and also to take some time to explain who we are at Surfrider and what we are doing. So thanks a lot for that opportunity again. I'm Florent Marcoux. I'm the CEO of Surfrider Foundation Europe. Surfrider Europe is an NGO dedicated to the protection of the ocean, the coastline, but also to its users, uses and users. So I will take time later in my presentation to better explain what we are doing and different kind of activities that we are running. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you very much. And can we move to Pramod? Pramod, to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Andrew. Hi, good morning from Copenhagen. I represent Foundation for Environmental Education. I work as Senior Director of Education, and we'll be sharing more details about what we are doing and how we are working, and look forward to your inputs.
And can we also hear from Gosha, please?
Hello, nice meeting you. I'm Gosha. I'm also based in Copenhagen in Foundation for Environmental Education. And I'll be talking about the Litterless campaign project that we are running for the last 10 years almost, and more about involvement of youth and participation in the campaigns, and to educate and to influence their knowledge and behavior change.
Thank you very much. And on to Simon.
Hello everyone, I'm Simon Bernard, CEO and co-founder of Plastic Odyssey. I'm based in Marseille, France, and I will explain you a little bit about the mission of Plastic Odyssey and how we are aiming to tackle the plastic pollution issue.
Okay, great. Thanks for the introductions. To start things off, I'd like to come to Florent. I think you've got a presentation, but perhaps you could tell us a little bit about Surfrider Surfrider Europe, in case there's anybody watching who doesn't know, and perhaps a bit about the mission and some of the aims and objectives.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Surfrider Foundation Europe was born in 1990, so more than 30 years old now organization. Trying, as I was saying just at the beginning, trying to find a good balance between citizens and the environment, or more specifically, the users of the ocean and the ocean. And this balance is not so easy to find, actually, and it's getting more harder and harder. We are structuring our activity around three major environmental issues dealing with ocean and coastlines. And I will come back to that, of course, a little bit more in details later. The first one is marine litter, all the garbage that we can find on the coastline, the beaches, and the ocean. The second one is dealing with water pollution, bacteriological or chemical, but also we are trying to face major issues dealing with regarding coastline management. And this particular issue is quite in linked with climate change. I will maybe take some more time or answer to some questions later on that. So we are we have the chance, I would say, on one of our major objectives is to enlarge and increase our network in Europe. Actually, we are in 12 countries, and this is the basis of our activity and of our approach. We like to say a grassroots organization, and that was funded by citizens who wanted to gather and fight all together against marine litter and ocean pollution more globally. And this is, I think, our strengths and major strengths. And so this is a big issue, a big challenge for us to develop that network and to be able to first identify the pollutions or the damages that are already taking place at the field level, and also to make them help the organization influencing the society and make it change in a good way, of course. So I don't want to be too long right now, because I will say a little bit more after that with my presentation.
Okay, and then I will come on to, I think it's Pramod. Pramod, perhaps you could introduce the Foundation for Environmental Education, its strategy over the next 10 years and some of the principles. I believe you also have a video that you might like to share with us.
And also a presentation. Can I start doing it now, Andrew?
Yes, you can. Please feel free to begin.
Thank you. You see, you are able to see my screen?
Yes, I can at the moment.
Thank you. So, sorry. So Foundation for Environmental Education is a Copenhagen-based charity. We are registered in the UK, and this office was set up in 2012. I will get more into the details of it. But since the audience has joined from different parts of the world, I would like to gather some perspectives from you all on the different aspects that are there, and then we'll discuss and we'll share our perspective in terms of the way we are handling the issue of plastic through our educational programs. You can go to and use your smart phones to go to menti.com. You can see on top of the screen and use code 356589636. I'm repeating, menti.com. Code is 356589 and 36. And the question to reflect and would like to understand in terms of what the viewers are thinking about, is plastic a problem or a solution?
So just to repeat, everyone's got to go to menti.com and enter this code 35658936 to participate, correct?
Yes, thank you, Michael.
Okay, 35. Okie doke. I'm in, hopefully most people.
So you will get the first question on the screen. Yes, the first option is both a problem and a solution. Yes. So we got 3, and others might be responding, and then they're moving towards both problem and solution and problem. But I think nobody saying is a solution and not sure about it. So it seems that people realize the challenge plastic have, and there are people who think it only from a problem perspective, but most of the people are thinking it from a both. It's a problem and a solution, and that's the challenge that we have of a material. And we'll discuss and what we understand and what we think of the challenges that we have and how we are handling through education. Almost 20 responses, but we've got a clear indication of what the audience is thinking about it. Getting to the second question, who should be responsible for solving the problems we face due to plastic? Is it consumer, the end consumer, people on the street who are buying the products with all the packaging or single-use plastic, all the material, or it is the government, or it is the corporations?
Can we not have all? It's a pity we don't have all of them.
Yes, but Michael, the idea was to see that it's in the gray area, but I want to see that what if given a Hobson choice, what will be that?
Right.
So a tie between a government and a corporation.
It's probably worth just repeating. It's better if people log in so they're not having to change screens on their computers watching this, that they log in. It's very easy to do it on your mobile phone, menti.com. And then you can watch this the screen on your computer and play with the survey on the phone.
So as we see, most of the thinking or perception or a perspective is that corporations are responsible for it, followed by government and consumers. So the idea, or most majority of the people think that the responsibility should move up the ladder of consumption, and consumers have a little role to play in that entire process, which is different from what I understand when I participate in debate on LinkedIn with people who are from the industry. So it's today I and Gosia who would be sharing our work with the audiences. As we have shared, I look after the education programs or the education as a portfolio within FEE, and Margita Gosia basically leads the program of Young Reporters for Environment and has been leading Littlest campaign for almost a decade now. FEE is the largest, if I would say, in terms of the way it is said in Denmark, probably the largest environmental education organization in the world. We have almost 99 or almost 100 members in 77 countries. We focus on hands-on action-based positive actions, and then which is promoting sustainable development. And we are an umbrella organization. So the head office in Denmark, but the operations happens through a member in national territories, which is represented by one organization. And we have 5 environmental education programs, and we have just set up a FEE Academy to support an online learning platform. And it came at the right time when the pandemic started. So we've been able to support our network and continue our work because of that. But still, I would like to make an appeal that it's a big investment, and we will look forward to any partnership and support that we can get in terms of any way. We started in 1981, so we are in the 40th year of our work, and we are getting into sharing more work through our impacts and stories, and you look forward to know more about us through our channels, and we'll be providing you more information and trying to get more partnership, and this is kind of platform that we look forward to. As I mentioned, we run 5 programs. Eco School, Learning About Forests, and Young Reporters for the Environment are focused on young people. Eco School is a formal education program. Learning About Forests is outdoor education, and Young Reporters is all about providing leadership among and promoting leadership skills among young people through media. And then 2 tourism-based program called Blue Flag and Green Key. Blue Flag is a label that basically certifies and promotes sustainability through a set of criteria on our beach, marinas, and our coastal ecosystems. Green Key is working with hotels and hotel industry with a set of criteria to promote sustainability. We have also set up a Global Forest Fund. It was set up in 2008, where we were putting together our carbon emission offset money through our programs. But then in 2019, we launched it for others to also contribute. You can go to our website, and it's basically trying to reduce CO2 emission with the minimum travel that we do. So we not only work for environmental education, but make sure that our activities and actions also are a symbol or are also shows that we are a responsible organization. And you are, as an individual, as an organization, you are free to contribute and offset your own carbon emissions that you have to incur because of the work that you do. This is both offset and education program, and you can find more details on our website. This is the map of where we are present currently. We are also there in Canada now, and increasingly growing in Africa and South America. We basically reach out to 3 million students, 3 million students, and around 20 million education programs reach out to 20 million Eco School as to students, and then 4,500 Blue Flag sites are there, and then there are 3,200 Green Key establishment around the world. So this is the overall engagement that the organization has around the world. We also have a formal partnership with the UN Environment. We are a strategic partner with the UNESCO. UNWTO works closely with us on the tourism-related activities. And we have the key principles of education. Basically, we involve and it's not a preaching model. We involve all the participants into activities. It's an empowerment or a transformation that we are looking for. We encourage collaboration and working with communities. We support participants to reflect, because we believe that reflection is the best way to educate and change habits and attitudes. And then encourage participants to be aware of the cultural elements which are integral part of sustainability issues, and reflect on this. We want to them to reflect on what good they are already doing, but then also reflect on things that need to change based on the changing things in the society or the changing paradigms that are there in the society, and also motivate others. So most of the programs encourage sharing of their work by our participants so that they can motivate and encourage others to act. And then continuously explore, test, share. It's a never-ending process because issues change, the nature of the issues change, and the pressure on the environment also is different or changing over the years. And then there is a continuous improvement. We cannot just sit back and relax that we have done our job and the programs will do the things on their own. So looking at the 2030 and alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, we have just launched our strategy called Gaia 2030, and it is looking at 3 important areas. We will continue to work on all thematic areas, all environmental issues, but prioritize and focus on empowering people for climate action, reducing environment pollution, and protecting global biodiversity. And each of them have 4 sub-goals. But to this audience, we are focusing on 2 elements: to reduce litter, so basically behavior change education to our consumers to participate in the systems that have been created to collect and then deal with the waste that is produced, but then looking at also the ways to advance circular economy. Those are 2 important sub goals under the theme of reducing environmental pollution. One more question on your menti.com. So if you're not just logged in, you can log in on menti.com, use the code 35658936, and asking your perspective, what is the best way to handle the problem of plastic? You said that it's mainly the responsibility of corporates. I understand that, but then what could be the best way, other ways of doing it, and within the systems also?
Perhaps you just want to repeat the code just one more time for anyone that might have.
Yeah, so the code is 35658936.
Thank you.
Okay, so banning started with the maximum post score, I would say, but it's moving down. Extended producer responsibility, I think that goes with the response to the first question when people were saying that the consumer, basically the corporations have the higher responsibility towards ending or towards basically tackling this problem. And then education of the consumers, creating system that encourages recycling, ban all single-use plastic. So extended producer responsibility is one of the major thing that the audience also feel, and we also feel, and the policymakers also feel. And for that reason, you are seeing a lot of policy initiatives that are talking about educating corporates on their responsibility and the ways they can. And circular economy as a concept is also helping and advancing that, and education for consumer. Now I hand it over to Gosia to take it over from here and reflect on what we are doing as part of the Litterless campaign. And one of the ideas that we are already doing is a campaign which starting tomorrow on My Action Matters. We are educating consumers and other stakeholders on how we can take handprint action, small actions in our daily life to protect global biodiversity, environmental pollution, and empower for climate action.
Thank you, Pramod. So I will tell you a few words about the Young Reporters for the Environment program. And if you can go to the next slide. And this program is offered to the young people from age 11 to 25 years old who would like to express their thoughts through journalistic issues like articles, photos, and videos. And this program not only teach young people to think about like systematically and use the critical thinking, but we give them knowledge as well and skills for the future life. And one part of this program is all through this program, we are also running a project that is called Litterless Campaign. And if we can go to the next slide, I can introduce you to the Litterless Campaign through a short video that we can maybe play now.
Picture an elephant. Imagine the full weight of that elephant made out of trash. If we don't change our waste habits, we could have 3.4 billion tons of garbage within the next 30 years. That's almost 525 million trash elephants. Lined up, They could surround the world nearly 120 times. We are burying our planet in litter. But there is hope to change our future. That hope starts with the Litter Less campaign. Students in the campaign attend environmental education programs to learn about making better choices to change litter habits. Together with teachers and parents, students lead projects to reduce waste and involve local communities. Some students run media campaigns to educate and encourage more people to take action. And more people are needed to move 525 million trash elephants. The Litter Less campaign wants you and your community to take part in this movement. Join the over 3 million students who are taking steps toward minimizing waste. Take that first step toward helping your community reduce litter by learning more about the Litter Less campaign today.
So this campaign is run together with the Mars Wrigley Foundation for almost 10 years this year. And we reached over 4 million students currently and over 5,500 schools. And we were presented also in 35 countries around the world. And the next one. For this year only, we have over 400,000 students involved. And what is also important and what we are working to raise the public awareness. So the students that are sharing their stories, they are also presenting the activities to parents, local communities through different actions that they are taking. And one very important aspect, it's a long-term commitment as well. So we are also working on increasing the knowledge and influence the behavior change of students, and also to increase the recycling or waste collections or other aspects depending on the economical situation in the countries as well. So I said the students are taking practical actions that are to work on the litter and waste, but also we are providing different educational resources to increase the knowledge, to work on practical skills, and also to change the behavior change. Someone told that we need 10 years to actually work on behavior change and make it like systematically and make it like real behavior. So that's also one of the approach of this campaign. And we promote and improve the system's waste management treatment to create good examples of activities that can be taken and they can be shared with the local communities and inspire others to take an action, and also to increase the collaboration between schools and communities to disseminate good examples. The Litterless campaign we are implementing through 2 programs, as I said before, through Young Reporters for the Environment, who are sharing the stories and increasing the knowledge and information for the local communities, but also through the EcoSchools program that works through 7 steps ongoing improvements, and schools that are working, they are making also practical activities based on the litter and waste. They measure the waste in the schools. They try to find the solutions, how to minimize the waste production and change the whole system in the school, also to to produce less waste, but also to run local campaigns together with the Young Reporters students and increase the knowledge and awareness for the local communities and parents and households. And just a few examples. This is a part of the article that was prepared for the Litterless campaign, and this is from the one of the schools that took over also the local beach and make the beach cleanup, and also like involving local communities in the sharing the stories related to these activities and to raise the awareness. The other example is from the school from Kenya that also decided to collect the plastic bottles, and they also reuse them to make some decorations. but it was an incredible amount of plastic that they collected for the last year in 2019, about 500 kilograms of plastics. And it also turned that the local communities were also like helping schools to collect it, and they're all involved in these actions. And now, as a result of this, they notice also that there is the littering around the local residents went down. And the other also the story from Malta, when the students took a campaign for stop using the plastics for shopping. And they created a lot of posters, the rising awareness campaign for the local communities, produced also reusable bags, and they worked with the local shops also to provide this information and share the awareness with the local communities. They also interviewed a lot of people around that, take their own vision on this, what can be done, and they also prepared a strategy for the local change in this city. And for the Litterless campaign, we also, of course, face some challenges. And one of them is long-term investment. As I mentioned at the beginning, to really see the positive behavior change, we need many years of work. And this also, we are as an NGO facing with many projects. And that for this, what we are very grateful to Mars Wrigley Foundation for this many years involvement with us. And understanding that this is a long-term process and we really need to work together and see this change. And we are observing this as well through the research that we are doing through the project, but we know that this is an ongoing process. What is important also, and one of the challenges, is an investment in the human capacity. If we want to educate participants and communities, we need to also provide some tools. We need to have an opportunity to provide workshops, sessions, conferences, seminars, but also online learning. And usually this is one of the biggest challenges for NGOs, that this part is very small in the budgets. What is important as well is to work with this kind of projects on the national level. There is always a limit of schools that can be involved. And this is, and to make the national campaign and national change, we need to have the large number of schools in the projects or that kind of activities that can be also involved with other partners. And the important part is also to adjust the things to the country needs. Sometimes we are designing the projects that have the general frame, but then it always needs to be adjusted. Some of the Western countries, they work usually on the minimization. The developing countries sometimes need to start from the beginning, from the introduction of the waste system in the local area. So all these aspects need to be looked carefully, and we have to be flexible on that. In our plans for the Litterless campaigns, we are now reviewing the projects and actions and thinking how to scale up it and how to make it as a national campaign that will involve not maybe 30, 40 or 100 schools in the country, but to involve like few hundred of schools and make it as a national campaign. We are working to increase the visibility and impact, so to create also more educational and communication materials and resources, and obviously looking for partners that would help us and would be interested to work us on the national level, but also internationally. And just at the end, I would like to play also this very short video prepared by one of our students from Portugal. It's not directly related to the Litterless campaign, but I will make the comment of this at the end. And with this, I just want to say that the Pramod at the beginning made a slide who's responsible for the actions, and it was that the companies, corporates, governments, and the consumers as well. And I want to go back also to the bottom part of the work, and we were highlighting that the governments, the corporates, but also us. And it's so important that we as a people are responsible for our daily own actions, and that's what we are trying to teach our students. Start the change from yourself, from the small actions that you can take every day, and then it can influence others. And if we make it as a global movement, then the things will be much easier to change. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much, Gosha, for a really comprehensive presentation. Gosha and Pramod for comprehensive presentations. There's some key takeaways there. I mean, I like what you said about how we, the individual, have to take the lead and we have to make the changes. I mean, even myself, over the past year on the personal front, I've been making changes to try and do more things to protect the environment by having separate bins in the house. And also, it's just fantastic to hear again about the Litterless project. I know it's something it's really a big priority for you, and we're very familiar with it here on TR Business, as you know. I know he's been waiting patiently in the wings, so I'd like to now bring in Simon to give us a little bit of an overview of the Plastic Odyssey expedition in particular, and how everything is progressing, etc. So Simon, I'd like to hand over to you. The platform is yours.
Thank you, Andy. Can you see the presentation now? Good. So hi again. Briefly to introduce Plastic Odyssey, our motto is clean up the past and build the future. Let me explain you why. Because to end the plastic pollution issue, there is two actions to be led in parallel. The first one is to improve waste management in low to middle income countries that are lacking of collection and management. And that's the main source of plastic pollution in the ocean. So when Andrew was talking about the 10 million tons of plastic ending up in the ocean every year, we are talking about coastal cities, countries with lack of infrastructures and with loads of trash, open landfills that are just ending up every minute in the ocean. So the first part of the action to be taken is to clean up the past, so to find a way to improve waste management in those countries. And the second, you obviously saw that later on, but is to reduce the plastic consumption. So we are consuming more and more plastic, single-use plastic. And so if we want to stop at roots, at the source, these pollutions, it's also crucial to stop the use and think about other ways to consume and use this material. So that's basically the two actions that we are doing. So the first one is obviously, as you can see here in Lebanon, there are loads and loads of plastic trash that ends up in the environment each year. And this is mostly linked directly to the income of the country. So lacking of collection points. And you can see here on the map actually that it's almost everywhere in the world that we can find a problem in waste management. So usually that's how we treat plastic. To get rid of it, we just burn it openly. So that's obviously the worst you can do in terms of getting rid of this waste. And it's actually quite crazy because this material is quite precious. It has a value, so it's a bit like burning money somehow. And so with Plastic Odyssey, we thought, okay, what if we could turn this plastic waste into a local economic resource for communities? So that's what we've been trying to do for over 5 years now. And so basically what you can do lots of, you can upcycle this material and turn it into new objects like furnitures, like houses for local communities. And you can also turn the non-recyclable plastic back into energy. So with 1 kilogram of plastic, you can make up to 1 liter of diesel and gasoline. So in countries where there is a difficult access to energy, people are using gensets to have electricity. You can still, in the meantime, in transition time, use the waste that are here everywhere and turn it back into energy, avoiding the use of virgin oil. So that's also a possibility. So having said that, we thought, okay, the problem is all this technology exists, but they are not accessible, they are not affordable. And so we need to develop a whole set of systems, of machines that have a low investment costs, that are so affordable, accessible, so that they can be built, replicated everywhere with simple tools, and open source, meaning free of patent, so that anyone can take the drawings, take the blueprints, and then replicate the machines to start a local recycling facility. So that's the idea. And so far, we managed to develop almost 10 different systems able to sort the plastic, to shred it into flakes, and then to mold it, so to melt the plastic and mold it to make new materials like tiles for the roofs, houses, and so on, and eventually turn it into fuel when there is no other opportunities. So these all sets of machines, so we have these prototypes made, and that are also based on what exists, especially in countries like Egypt, that have already a good experience in local recycling. So we made all these prototypes in order to then share them to local entrepreneurs everywhere and to help them to start their local social recycling business. So the idea is, if we can manage to share the knowledge, because we have today the knowledge, but it needs to be shared. So share the knowledge and then implement, replicate the solutions, we can then turn the waste into a solution, into a resource for local communities everywhere. That's basically the idea, the first part of the action. And obviously, the second part, building the future, is working on how we can find solutions to change the way we use this material, the plastic material. And for that, we are identifying solutions to get rid of the plastic and to make it differently. So for example, if we take this coffee cup that we all use every day, we can basically, we have 3 choices. So the first one, which is the best one, is to switch from a single-use cup to a reusable mug. So that's the best, is a change in use, in behaviors. So that's the best one. The second one is, if you cannot change the use and the behavior, is changing the design. So from a cup with a plastic lid, we can turn it into a foldable cup, paper cup, so that we have get rid of the plastic lid. And the last possibility is to change the material. So you, instead of having plastic for the lid, you can have biosource material. So that's the 3 categories of solutions you can have to replace the use of single-use plastic. And so in order to share all the solutions, whether to clean up the past, recycle the waste that has been produced, or to build a future free of plastic, or of single-use plastics, we have a crazy expedition. We've transformed this incredible boat, this vessel. That's a 40 meters long oceanographic vessel, and she's been turned into an ambassador of solutions to end plastic pollution. So basically, what we have on this boat, so at the aft of the ship, we have 200 square meters of recycling lab, where we will embark all the different technologies to recycle plastic into new products, and so it will really act as a laboratory, at the Fab Lab, where we will embark entrepreneurs train them on the machines, and develop new business models based on all these systems to recycle plastic. And at the forepart of the vessel, we have a showroom where we will showcase all the solutions to build the future. So solutions to get rid of plastic bottles, for example. We are working with a startup called Innovaya that is building systems to clean waters so that we can provide potable waters everywhere and avoid the use of plastic bottles or plastic bags to carry water. And so the idea with this vessel is to start this year, 2021, in October from France, and to start a 3 years expedition, 3 years long mission around the world. So beginning with Africa, the Mediterranean coast, and then going to South America, and finally Southeast Asia. And the idea is to during all the stopovers of the vessel is to invite on board whether entrepreneurs, local investors, but also companies that are using plastics and can be interested in to whether get rid of the plastic or use recyclable materials, and allow them to replicate the solutions that will be showcased. So that's the idea of the different stopovers. And after that, we are building a platform to support entrepreneurs. So a bit like Wikipedia, we will share online on this platform all the knowledge on plastic recycling, the blueprints of the machines to turn plastic waste into a resource, or business blueprints to turn this waste into something valuable, as well as all the solutions to build a future without plastic. So in the long term, we will act a bit as an incubator of all the solutions to end plastic solution at a local level. So that's the idea. Obviously, before the launch of the expedition, we are still opening the program to the last sponsor. So for the moment, we have our main sponsor is L'Occitane en Provence, and we have also Clarins, Crédit Agricole, and Matmut. So we are the main sponsors of the expedition, and we are looking for 1 or 2 last partners to join this crazy adventure. So if you are keen in joining the crew and joining this this vision, well, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing details. Sorry, Michael.
No, I was just going to say that was a really interesting presentation, and I just wanted to jump on what you just said, Simon, to reach out to all those watching, to talk to local to retailers, especially cruise port retailers around the world, to ensure that they're aware of Simon's voyage and project, and see how we can get retailers, ports around the world, or even airports around the world where airports are going to be near to the coastlines, to welcome you, to work with you, and ensure that this project is really has a we can be a catalyst for you to reach out to more communities in all the various locations you'll be going to. So we'll certainly be writing up on this and reaching out to the industry to try and get the support for you, as for FEE and Surfrider as well, and what we're about to see from Florent. I was going to ask you how you're funded, but you mentioned L'Occitane, Clarins, Crédit Agricole, and Matmut. Are there any other sources of finance as well for this initiative?
We also have donors. So like everybody can donate on our website. So that's another way we can fund the project. And the idea is what we are doing is open source, so meaning there is no patent. We give for free all the knowledge, all the R&D we are doing. So that's why we chose this way of partnering with company who share the same value, so that we can work on the R&D for everybody for free, and create content, media content, to share the expedition and the human adventure behind the vessel.
Right. And it's not just about financial support. I'm sure there are lots of ways in which individuals and companies can help. And one of the ways, as I was just explaining, is obviously the introductions. And both for you and for Gosha and Pramod for the FEE, I think one of the ways in which the industry can help is, you know, I know you work with Mars already, but you also want to reach out, Gosha and Pramod, to do more communities in developing countries, to educate more children who are really the flag bearers of environmental education at the moment. And I'm sure there are lots of companies within the industry who could and should reach out to you and see how they can work with you in reaching, you know, the farming communities from all the other confectionery suppliers and alcohol providers and other, you know, the beauty companies who are working in developing countries. So there's a kind of a call to action there to all watching now and later when people are watching this on catch up is do get in touch with Gosha, Pramod, Simon and Florent, who we'll hear from in a minute, to see how you can help, not just through financial support, but also through reaching out to more communities. And before we do move on to Florent, Gosha and Pramod, I wanted to ask you, is that a way, do you work with Mars and other partners in reaching the communities through the farming communities, for example? And how else do you reach the children in developing countries in particular?
Gosha, you go for this.
I mean, we are working with different companies as well, and it also depends of what is the expectation. So we are always trying to build this in a partnership and trying to find out what are the goals of the company that is working with us and what are our goals and where we can meet with this. And in most of the cases, we are also working with companies that are strongly involved on the local areas as well. And they work closely with some schools and students around this and making together some actions or learning from each other. So that's also is another aspect of partnership. And as well, or some part of education that companies can provide for students and learning with some good examples and solutions that can be provided by the company and the students can get from it. And as well for the developing countries, it's very crucial to get this partnership as well and support with education, but it support also financially with this, with making some improvements and providing some facilities for schools that can work on making like in the case of Little Less campaign, to even provide some physical changes in the school buildings. Because that's what we are trying to introduce to our schools. It's not only education, but there are also changes that schools are providing in the buildings.
Yeah, that's great.
I want to add, Michael, here is that the enabling environment and connection with community, whether it's farming or rural or urban, is an important aspect of all our programs. So we are just not limiting, because school exists in a society, and if we teach something in the school and that is not there outside the boundary of the school, it's difficult to sustain that change that we want, and it will be only an island of excellence within the school, and people will have a mindset that, okay, I have to behave in a certain way in a certain place, not always, kind of thing. And environment is an always behavior element that need to be there.
Yeah, I know, and you have to obviously work with the sensitivity of different cultures. I know, for example, in Cambodia, in rural communities, it's to reach out in the far-reaching rural communities, you have to go either through the village chiefs or faith-based organizations, the missionaries who are out there literally in every single village. Do you work with, is that how you work as well, through faith-based organizations and the village chiefs to reach the communities?
That's what Pramod said also at the beginning. We are working as an umbrella organization. So we have a head office in Denmark, but then in every country that we are working, we are trying to find a local non-governmental organization that can actually knows the reality and knows the daily they work with the schools and partners over there. And and this is our target. So we provide education and partnership through our NGO, and the local NGO works with the schools and children over there. And as Pramod also mentioned, we want our schools, like historically schools and the churches were the main things in the villages, and they were providing education and the changes. So for us, still the schools are this hub of the change. Something can be introduced then, but then is reintroduced to the houses and the local communities. And this how the education can work from the bottom to up.
There are a lot of similarities with what you were saying, all of you, particularly you, Simon, and what David Katz was saying in the keynote session on Monday. Interestingly, we were just exchanging over the email earlier today, and he was saying that he's had lots of requests for connections on LinkedIn and by email since his presentation for companies wanting to get involved with the plastic bank within our industry. So once again, let's hope that this is a springboard for all of you to reach out to different companies within the industry who want to come and help spread the word, reach out to communities in the countries where you're operating and where you'll be sailing to, Simon. So fingers crossed that this will lead to that extra finance and new connections. Sorry, Pramod.
Michael, just wanted to, I think, differentiate two words here when we work. One is awareness and another is education. And the way we differentiate these two words is basically education is getting ready to take that action, which, as Gosha was highlighting, requires a lot of patience, time, investment. And the other is awareness. And a lot of effort is happening on the awareness part, but we need to divert our attention to the action part, which is part of the education, because education transforms a person, transforms a society, and which is different in a approach and process. Awareness is just one step in that process of making that change.
I see Florent nodding his head there. It's probably a good cue to bring him into the discussion and let him share his insights and how the Surfrider Europe Foundation works. Over to you, Florent.
Okay, yes, thank you, Michael. Yes, I will try to share my screen. It is. Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Yes, thanks again for having that opportunity. First, I would start just with sharing a simple message that I think is important to keep in mind when it comes to the ocean. If the ocean dies, we die. It's so simple, but it's reality. All single life on the earth is coming from the ocean. So why is it so important to protect the ocean? I will share with you some really few figures that I think are very important to keep in mind also, and that a lot of people don't really know, actually, I think. The first is that 70% of the planet is covered by the ocean. And more than that, 50% of the oxygen that we're breathing comes from the ocean. We all know about the green lung, but we don't really know about the blue lung. 50% of the oxygen is coming from the ocean. Another figure that is, I think, really important to realize is that 25% of the CO2 that we are producing by the human activity is absorbed by the ocean. So the ocean is really a key stakeholder, I would say, in the climate change machine and system. And at the end, last figure, only 1% of the ocean is under protection status. And it's not only a matter of quantity of the ocean that is under protection status, but it's also the qualitative approach of this protection. We have to know that in some cases, in some protected areas, there is still the possibility to do some offshore drilling exploration, for instance. For me, it's a nonsense. So these are some figures, I think, that are really important when it comes to ocean issues to have in mind. So when it comes to ocean pollution, what are we speaking about? There's a lot of damages of risk regarding the ocean. I would focus on three major issues that we are facing at Surfrider Foundation Europe. The first one this is what we are here today to speak about, is marine litter, and more specifically plastic pollution and plastic waste. You have to know that between 80 to 90% of the marine litters and garbage that we can find in the ocean, on the beaches, it's plastic. It's plastic. So this is really where we have to focus on and to fight against that plastic pollution. Also, we have to understand that 80% of the marine litter that ends up in the ocean come from the inland. So it's not a problem or coming just from the shipping or from citizens that are on the beaches, on holidays or whatever. It comes from the inland. So for us, what we have to really fight on is to fight at the source. Okay, we are facing, we think now, a storytelling, a dangerous storytelling coming from the plastic industry lobby, saying that to fight against plastic pollution, the solution is to collect and recycle 100% of our plastic waste. For us at Surfrider, it's fake news. It's fake news. It's not possible, and we won't be able to do so in the future. The production of plastic is increasing really fast, and we are only able to recycle today a small amount of this plastic waste. So the real solution is to reduce massively our production and the consumption of plastic. For that, we are aiming and trying to work on two major issues. The first one, and of course, the colleagues here already spoke about that. First is the single-use plastic. This is really an insane thing that humans have created, I think. All those plastic bags, plastic cups, and so on, that we are using sometimes 20 seconds, 20 minutes, and no more. So we have to stop that single-use plastic production and consumption. And the second one is microplastics. Because regarding single-use plastic, at least at European level, we had a great victory a couple of years ago now in 2019 with a new directive coming from the EU asking the state members to ban about 10 plastic items, and it was a really big change from the legal framework perspective. It's not enough, of course, and there's still a lot of things that are out of the scope. But there's one thing that is still out of the scope also, is microplastics. And it's not only microplastic, because when you have plastic in the ocean, plastic bottle, for instance, then it splits into small plastic parts, in small parts. So it becomes microplastics, nanoplastics. It ends up in the food chain and so on. But there's also microplastics that are intentionally added to some products, and I will come back to that a little bit later. I will go quite fast to some other slides because I won't be too long, and I think it's good also to have time for the discussions and the reactions. This is the top 4 of the plastic that you can find usually: plastic bottle, the Q-tips, and plastic bag, of course, and also cigarette butts. Amazing quantity of cigarette butts that you can find everywhere, I would say, not only in the ocean. The second major environmental issue that we're working on in Surfrider is water pollution. So we've been working a lot on bacteriological pollution. It has improved in the last 10 years. We still have some big issues in dealing with some rainfalls and so on, but it's improving. But the other major issues is more about chemical pollution. And there's the problem is that we don't really have serious data, no epidemiologic study at the global level has been run so far. So it's really difficult to know what are the impact of that chemical pollution on the ecosystems, on users, on human beings. And the third of the environmental issue we're working on or facing is the coastal management problem, linked not only, but quite a lot with climate change issues. Because of the climate change, on that, we would like to have this kind of coastline, no? I guess all of us, but we have a lot of buildings, as you can see on the small picture that you have on that slide. In fact, this coastline, this specific area on Earth is facing a double pressure. The first one is the anthropic pressure. Every single year, more people are coming to the coast to live. So it means more infrastructures, more housing, flats, and so on. And on the other hand, you have also the climate pressure with sea level rise, an increase in erosion risk, and so on and so on. So it's really difficult to tackle that problem, and we have to, I would say, and we are trying to promote a better dialogue with the different stakeholders at the field level, on the ground, with the citizens, to be able to put in place projects that won't have too much or too many damages on ecosystems and users. So now, coming to some concrete solutions that Surfrider Europe is trying to put in place. First, a few words on Surfrider Europe, who we are as an NGO, and for that, better than words, maybe a small video. So if you can launch that video, please, and I will come back later with some explanation.
Clean water, inspired communities. This is what we fight for. On the ground, in the classroom, at the heart of the political debate. Every day, we take action to battle plastic pollution, protect water quality, and reduce climate change. Powered by a dedicated grassroots community around Europe, we are driving change at every level to ensure that our ocean and beaches exist for future generations to enjoy. We protect what we love. Since 1990, we are Surfrider Europe.
Okay, then, so this is, I think, a good way with just 1 minute video of explaining who we are. And we are doing all that thanks to the team of Surfrider. It can be a volunteer, it can be staff, but this on the map, you can see where we are working and where we are localized. It can be staff offices or just volunteer teams that we call chapters, actually. So we are working now in 12 countries. I would like also maybe to share with you that info that I think is relevant also for you to know it, that we are part of a more international movement. So Surfrider was born in the US in 1984, and we started in Europe in 1990. And now we also have Surfrider in Japan, in Australia, in Morocco, in Senegal, in Argentina, in Canada. So it's a global movement, and we are also sharing good experiences, good practices, some tools, and so on. How do we tackle this issue? How are we working actually? In fact, I like to say that we try to have a systemic approach. On the one hand, we are fighting against existing pollution. This is the first step, I would say. There are a lot of damages that are taking place day after day to the ocean, to rivers, to coastlines, and so on. And we try to mobilize people, to develop some dialogue issues with some local authorities, to mobilize, to organize some strikes, some petitions to stop this kind of pollutions. We can go to court also. We have some legal activities, we are able to do so. Just a few examples, some good victories of last year. We managed to stop Donald Trump's project, crazy project that he had in Ireland. He wanted to build big major seawall to protect his golf resort. And thanks to a citizen mobilization, the petition, and so on, and a collective approach, we were not alone on that, of course. We managed to put a stop, to put an end to that crazy project of Donald Trump. The second one last year, also with great victory, is taking place in Portugal, that we managed to stop the building of a major harbor in Les Chauves beach, with big risk on damaging ecosystems, but also the surf sport that was there. So impact also on economic issues such as tourism and so on. So this is one way of working at Surfrider, is to fight against existing pollution. But we are also doing a lot of efforts on putting a lot of energy in building the new society of tomorrow. Okay, it's how can we influence the society to change and to reduce the impact that it can have now on the ocean. So we are for that working on the different stakeholders that we all have in our societies. First is us, citizens, trying to change individual habits, behaviors, and so on. So we are, of course, planning a lot of pedagogical, educational activities in the schools, primary schools, secondary schools, also with students, even with adults in some corporates and so on. But I would like to put emphasis on two specific campaigns. The first one is the Ocean Initiatives campaigns that we are running more than 25 years now. The idea is, it is what we can call beach cleanup, but the idea is to gather people on the beach or on the rivers, coast, on lakes or whatever, to collect waste. And it's a really good way of raising awareness to those citizens to realize the quantity of plastic waste that they can find, and also to realize their role in that, their responsibility in that situation. And we also take benefit of that campaign to monitor marine litter in the different coastlines. So after the waste collection, we ask them to sort the different garbage that they have found, and we put it in a database. And thanks to that, we are able to go to the EU or to go to see some institutions to ask them to design a new legal framework. So it's raising awareness. It's a bit like Pramod was saying, the difference between awareness and education. This is more about awareness. Regarding education, this is really a major issue. I agree. We have developed that app. It's a simple app. It's called Ocean Zero. So please, if you feel like you can just download it on your smartphone, we already have 100,000, more than 100,000 users of that app. It's like it has been designed as a virtual coach, helping you to go towards the zero waste day-to-day way of living. I think it's simple. You enter into a community, you can compare yourselves, you can also realize the impact of your day-to-day change. So it's really good. So this is our way of trying to change individual day-to-day habits or behaviors. The other option that we have and work we are implementing with that regarding changing the society is to promote the evolution of the legal framework. It's a lobby, institutional lobby for general interest, of course, but it's lobby. So it's really important for us to take part into different institutional bodies. It can be at a local level, at the national, European, or even international level. It's to try to take part in the decision-making process. It can bring really good impact and really great impact at the field level. For instance, at the European level, for the European Union, the environmental policies, directives are compulsory. So when it is decided at the European level, all the state members has to put it in place. So you can imagine when we are able to change something at the European level, the impact is really huge. It's not only a matter of getting into some institutional bodies, it's also a capacity to gather people, to mobilize people, to put pressure on our political leaders to ask them some change in the legal framework. This is a photo taken in 2015 in Paris during the Paris Agreement, during the COP21. And thanks to this great mobilization, a platform that we've been creating, Ocean and Climate platform, we were able, at least after 20 years of negotiation between international political leaders, to make the ocean appears in the Paris Agreement, at least. So these are the two major political victories that we have. I already mentioned it before. So, and last thing I wanted to share with you is the activity that we have supporting the industrial transition. At Surfrider, we do think that it's part of our responsibility to support that industrial transition, not only to criticize or to ask or to say, yes, in 20, 30 years, we should be at that point to share our vision of the future, but also, how can we pass from that situation that we are today to that vision that we have for the future? And part of it is the industrial transformation, and we think that we have our responsibility to take in that transition also. We have different ways of working on that. First, I'm sorry to say that we have to denounce dangerous industrial practices. There is still a lot of dangerous industrial practices coming from some companies, coming from some corporate sectors sometimes that don't really realize that. Maybe they are still in denying their impact or some major issues that they may have on the ocean, on the environment. So sometimes, yes, we are denouncing this kind of dangerous industrial practices. For instance, you can see on that campaign that we ran a couple of years ago, I think, or last year maybe. In the middle, the poster in the middle is saying, by protecting your teeth, you are destroying the ocean. This is linked with microplastics that I was speaking about just before, that are intentionally added to some products and to some cosmetics. But it's not only a matter of denouncing, it's also to support the transition for those who are really engaged and committed to that change. And there's a lot of companies that are in that process of changing and improving the industrial practices. And it's really good to see that. Actually, we are receiving a lot of demands for new partnerships or collaborations or whatever. I wanted to put emphasis on something that we have built with Biotherm. I think for us, it's really a good practice of what kind of collaboration or partnerships that we can run with some companies. We took 1 year first to design our partnership with Biotherm. So we took that time to better know each other, our commitments, our engagements, what we are doing, our fights, and so on. We saw that we were sharing a lot of values and objectives and so on. And after that, we started partnering and collaborating. And even if they already had a lot of commitments for reducing their plastic footprint and so on, we've been challenging them regarding the packaging of some of their cosmetics. And they accepted the challenge, and they have designed that blue fountain. They call it the blue fountain. This is the first refillable skincare technology. They have launched it a couple of months ago in Spain, and hopefully they will spread it all over Europe in the coming months or years. And the last example I wanted to share with you is dealing with a more global sector. This is the shipping sector. You all know that 80 to 90% of transportation, goods transportation all over the world is made by shipping. It's not the more polluting transport, of course, regarding cars or planes or whatever, but it's huge. So it's really important for us also to transform and to help that corporate sector, industrial sector, to transform itself in the way it's transporting our goods. Actually, usually citizens are very happy to know that they are buying an organic coffee with some labels coming from Colombia, but how it has been transported from Colombia to Europe or to other places, it can be in really bad situation. So we have designed that label, Green Marine Europe. You can find it in Twitter, on LinkedIn, or whatever. There's also a dedicated website if you want. And this Green Marine Europe, this label is asking for those who are labelized to improve year after year. Okay, you can see all the different thematics and criteria that have been that are analyzed for those who want to come into that program. So it's really large, invasive species, of course, air emissions, pollutant air emissions, not only greenhouse gas emissions, but also NOx, SOx, and so on, the way you are managing garbages and so on, even on the water noises and so on. We already have 12 ship owners that are on board: Brittany Ferries, Orange Marine, La Méridionale, Corsica Linea. So you can see, I'll let you have a look at it. It's not only, of course, for goods transportation, it's also passengers transportations. And we have some specific criteria regarding waste management. So there's a lot of information that we gave also on the hub. If you want to find some more information, of course, we can have a look at the dedicated website for the Green Marine Europe. By the way, just to end on that issue, we have adapted, in fact, the Green Marine label that already exists in Canada and the US. So we have adapted it to the legal framework here in Europe, of course, but it's something that is already run in the Northern America since about 10 years, and that has a huge impact and very good results. So that's it. I hope I was not too long, and happy to answer any questions or remarks that you may have.
Very much for a wealth of information there, and we could really feel your passion. I was particularly fascinated by the educational element. You were talking about the virtual coach. It was very interesting to hear that. I just actually wanted to ask you a question about if you could tell us a little bit about the maybe the profile of some of your ambassadors and people joining the organisation. Can you tell us a little bit about the Surfrider, like the community?
Yes, actually, we've been created by surfers. That's why we are Surfrider Europe. And more precisely, at that time in 1990, at that moment in the southwest of France, Tom Curren, 3 times world champion of surf, was living there. And he decided to create, and he gathered with some other surfers to create Surfrider Europe and to fight against, or to protect their playground. Basically, we can say it like that. But now our community is wider. We still have a lot of surfers, but not only surfers. I'm not a surfer, for instance. I'm the CEO and I'm not a surfer. Hopefully, they are not only recruiting surfers. But we are all passionate of the ocean. We all know that if the ocean dies, we die, for instance. This is a simple message. So we have a lot of different users of the ocean, surfers, kite surfers, divers, or whatever, and some others are just loving the ocean, loving being there, around and seeing it and watching it, and so on. And we have now more or less 200,000 followers in our community, about 15,000 members, and a lot of volunteers also in our community in those 12 countries that I mentioned before. Is it clear enough, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that's a nice insight there.
Okay.
I was going to ask, on top of that question, Andrew, do you work with any companies? You mentioned some of the ferry companies in that last slide. Do you work with any other companies that you know would be in our sector, cruise or any of the brands?
Yeah, we are working with a lot of companies actually, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of demand entering since 2 years now. It's impressive. I think it gives hope also of the change that is happening, and the will of that sector also to change in some way. And so even with our due diligence process and so on, we are partnering with a lot of companies, different kinds. It can be bank, insurance, energy. It can be ship owners, as I mentioned before. It can be cosmetics. It can be textiles also. Even if with textile it's tricky because it's quite a polluting industry. So we are avancing cautiously with them. But yes, we have some partners with Jules, for instance, or KD, and we are starting partnering with Levi's also.
Yeah, you mentioned the refillable partnership on the cosmetics brand. We heard from Simon's partner, L'Occitane Provence, got similar initiatives there, and I think we'll be seeing more of that in the industry for sure. Do you work with any of the companies? How do you promote the app? And do you work with any companies that you're partnering with on promoting the app that you showed us?
Yeah, we promote it everywhere we are, but actually we are trying to develop like how do you say that? Marque blanche, like we are trying to see how we can adapt this app and propose it to different partners for them to implement it internally to their own stakeholders and propose it to their own stakeholders. So we are in that process of building this adaptation of the app.
That's perfect, because I think that's exactly how some companies in this industry would jump on. Wow, this is a great ready-made solution for us to communicate to our consumers, whether we're a brand or a retailer. It's a fantastic, quick win partnership.
Yeah, because they can already propose it, but the idea is for them to realize the impact that it can have just with the small app, I would say, reserved, dedicated to their own team or stakeholders, for them to exchange between them and maybe to see the impact by entering this kind of process as a brand.
I know you've already been exchanging with Gosha and Pramod on other issues of ways of collaboration in the future, but maybe that's something that they could also work with you on. And I don't know if you already use apps, Gosha and Pramod, but certainly a great way to reach a wider community.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of interesting ideas that Florence shared. And as well, I think that may be a great opportunity for our other program, Bruflag, to connect, because they are basically working with clean beaches and marinas to certify them for those that provide the education, but also all the environmental improvements and things and facilities that are according to the criteria. So it might be also a way to link the collaboration. And I also want to reach to Simon as well with this boat cruise. I was thinking that maybe we can also link that to organize our young reporters on different areas when the cruise will be going, and make some interviews and learning from that, and ask them to write some stories that can be shared globally in the countries that you will be visiting with this.
Sure, would be good to connect, for sure.
Yeah, just have just a question for Gosha. You actually just you mentioned that I think the younger people, and I think if I heard you correctly, you touched on the younger generation just now. Is it fair to say that the younger generation is like driven by like a different set of values, which includes sustainability, and the industry I put my duty-free and travel retail hat on here, the industry needs to work hard to like take advantage of this as we continue to recover from COVID-19?
I mean, on one side, I remember, as I mentioned in one of the stories, we are doing the surveys to our students to also measure their knowledge and behavior change. And one information that we got some time ago is like, we hear so much about environmental issues and that we feel already overwhelmed and kind of hopeless. We don't know what to do. And it's like this information are given to us, but then there is not follow up what can be done. And this is one side. And the other side, when we are checking some of the other researchers, they also say that youth, they feel overwhelmed with negative messages about climate change and other aspects. And they also made them feeling hopeless. And that's what also our foundation is trying to do, to change the approach and to show that actually even through small activities, you can make a change and you can do something that will give you happy, but also will provide some improvements for the environment. And that's how we are working with young students in our programs to focus also on positive aspects of the stories, on things like organization like Simon, Florent are doing, and bringing this information to our youth so they can learn through this, but also look for some positive improvements in the local areas to describe them and share the stories. So build some kind of opportunities for them being an influencers for positive environmental change. And we see that it's much more motivating than highlighting all these negative things of environment dying and that we are dying, which is important to know because they have to have the fair reports and information. But these positive activities are motivating them more and giving more powers for them to work later in the corporates and companies and looking for a solution than feeling that it's just like it was, and then we have to stay with the status quo.
Simon, do you have any thoughts on that? Hello, Simon. I'm not sure if Simon's there.
It's just video's turned off for a second. While we're waiting for Simon to come back, I was going to ask you. Florent mentioned the monitoring of the actions, the operation through beach cleans and so on. Do you also, through your partners, in the countries where you're operating through your local partners, Gosha and Pramod, do you have some KPI indicators in place where you can monitor the actions, whether it's the Litterless campaign or other projects that you're working on?
When we look at monitoring, we basically look at two aspects. That is one aspect that has to be differentiated and made more visible. One is the environmental or the operational part, that how much waste has been collected, or reduction in waste, or recycling rates and all. So which is basically an indicator of environmental improvement. But the second indicator, which is an enabling environment, and which needs a lot of resources, but also a challenge, because if it is an add-on activity, is the improvement in educational outputs or outcomes. So looking at the change in the knowledge, change in attitudes, change in values, change in behavior, difficult to do. And that is one aspect I think more and more organization has to realize, that that enabling element has to be monitored in a better way and in a more comprehensive way to see a sustainable environmental change that we want. Otherwise, it's a one-day cleanup, and then one day or next day or 1 week, the problem is back on your doorstep.
And have you seen in any markets kind of a significant difference in the way in which projects are implemented, executed, and therefore the results of projects, for whatever reason, whether it's because of the partners you had in place, whether it's the schools or the ministerial support or the corporate partners, and what has caused that sort of net difference in terms of performance?
I mean, if we are looking directly, like, for example, to Litterless campaign, what we are observing, like for the schools, they started, for example, with waste selection and segregation. They take the approach and you see the constant improvement. But the continuous on this is important, that they, after some years of working on one aspect of this, they look also on the other and more like backing to the circular economy, looking at the waste minimization. And that is important aspect of the improvements and like the constant education. So it's not one-time action, but it's an ongoing process.
It's the incremental change. There is no final solution, and you can relax, because the nature of the problem is changing, the scale of the problem is changing, and we have to make that incremental. And that's what I also try to highlight, that basically, for example, in climate change education, we moved from reduction of carbon to offsetting debate, that we offset what, but now we are talking about net zero, because one problem or one area, if emitting carbon, is going into the same atmosphere that we have. So the environment basically bring all the issues together, and we have to, as citizens of this earth, need to realize that. And that's what is taking traction. It's about global citizenship. Problems cannot be seen in isolation. Yes, my solutions are local, but the impacts are global. So and the connection that we need to make in that sense.
Yeah, and I also want to add on this, that we see from some of the schools that are working with us for years, when they highlighting, I was telling in one of the stories, but they see the change in the local areas, something that was introduced by the school. And then there is the area that they constantly look at, that it's less polluted, it's less people putting litter over there, or they are making this small influence and change locally. So that you can see, but it's a long-term observation. It's not an immediate change that happens.
One of the ways in which NGOs I know are working at the moment when it comes to the environment, whether they're environmental NGOs or not, medical urgency NGOs, for example, are looking at their own environmental footprint. Questions there, so both to you, Gosha, Pramod, and of course to you, Florent. Is that part of the process? Are you looking at your own impact, carbon footprint, and overall footprint on the environment?
I shared about the Global Forest Fund. So we, as an organization, in 2008, we decided that we will try to offset and compensate for the impact that we make because of our travel. So that's a conscious decision that we take. But then the other decision which is part of the new strategy Gaia 2030, the first sub goal is that ensure that we have an environmental policy, all our members have an environmental policy, and that is implemented. And that environmental policy tackles all the issues that we have in terms of how we procure, how we consume, the way we use our energy, whether we use water. It's very comprehensive strategy that we are now implementing, and all are expecting that all 99 members of FEE, and then all our sites, whether it's a school or a hotel or a municipality on a beach is located, also has a compliance to that. And we will try to build it into the labels that we have, whether it's a green flag for schools or a blue flag or green key for tourism sector. So we are starting from ourselves now also in a very comprehensive way.
And also, like in the policies that we have in our offices, it was discussed with all of us what the rules we agreed to and what we want to start regarding the waste, food, and everything, all the aspects. But I also want to say about other aspects. It relates also to partnership that we are building with other institutions and companies. So we are also looking at the CSR policies of the companies that we are working and trying to build it in partnership that we learn from each other. So it's not only the funds that are coming, but there are also win-win relationship and long-term relationship that we build with the corporates.
And Florent? What about with Frode?
Yeah, we have some environmental internal policies to try to reduce our own impact, but we will actually, it's weird, but we will launch a specific carbon footprint assessment in a couple of months for the first time. So we never did that before. I'm really excited to see the results actually, and to have also not only the assessment but also proposals to improve ourselves. We do know that we are not perfect at all. I am not perfect as a human being. We are not asking to our partners to be perfect. The idea is to be in that process of improving ourselves. I love the sentence that you mentioned, start the change from yourself, and it's true for each individual, and it's true also for each organization. So yes, we have to do so, and we will do so this year in 2021 for the first time. And just another information that is interesting, I think, is that in 2013, so about 7-8 years ago now, we have published our first, and unique at that time, but we will do it again this year. It's not a CSR report, it would be an OSR report, an organization social responsibility report. So we also did that kind of exercise a couple of 7 or 8 years ago, just to analyze ourselves, to share with all our stakeholders and the community our thinking, our views of interacting with different stakeholders in the society and so on. The limits of that, the risks, the benefits. It's good to do this kind of exercise that are asked to a corporate sector, but also to apply it to NGOs. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's, as you mentioned about perfection, there's a great expression I heard a while ago. Someone said we should not aim for perfection at the expense of just doing good. And it's something that David Katz was saying as well. You know, it's about all of us trying to be better and do good. Well,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. No, and I think some things that is usually missing is just the recognition of having a bad impact. We all have, I have individually, and sometimes people or corporate or local authorities or government leaders or political leaders are just denying that. This is the first step, I think, that we have to change. Just accept that we are doing bad things. And when you accept it, it's the beginning of changing and trying to start that transition phase. But if you are just in the denying still posture, it's impossible to make a change.
That's a very powerful message to end on there. As I say, I think I've said this after every session. We could go on and talk for the next couple of hours and try to get that important message out there. All I can say on my side, it was thanks for all your energy, your passion, and it was just fantastic hearing about all the projects. And I think there's some really valuable takeaways there, especially the education element, the educational elements, and the various calls to actions we've heard over the past couple of hours. As I say, I'd like to just thank all our speakers again and our sponsors, and hand over to Michael for some final remarks.
Yeah, so again, I would like to also express my thanks to Gosha, Pramod, Florent and Simon. I'd just also like to remind you that the session recording will be available soon after this session ends, if you want to watch it again, or if any colleagues have missed it. It's been a really interesting discussion. Thanks very much to all of you, and thanks to you for watching. And of course, as Andy said, to our sponsors, Arienta International, Beam Suntory, Brown Forman, Coty and Mondelez International. Please share your comments about this session and the event on social media using the hashtag Travel Retail Sustainability Week, and share it with hashtag TRBusiness, so we can also spread the good news on sustainable strategies in travel retail. Coming up next, let's just show this. At 11:30 UK time, we'll discover the third round of our sustainability pitch sessions with Lego, L'Occitane en Provence and L'Oréal. And then at 2 p.m, we'll be discussing how sustainability is forging powerful new partnerships, and explore some of those partnership models already underway between airports, brands and retailers. So we look forward to seeing you later. Take care and enjoy the networking opportunities between the sessions. Bye for now. Stay safe.
Bye, everyone.